Hey everyone, we got one more video here for you today. We got a cleanup session with Nintendo Switch 2 news. Some of it dealing with virtual game cards, some of it dealing with dev kits, some of it dealing with new games possibly coming over, and so much more. Like, I love being able to do these news roundups for you guys, so we're going to dive right into this. After I remind you, we actually are giving away a Nintendo Switch 2 Mario Kart World Bundle, two of those bad boys, right now. All you gotta do is head down to the pinned comment or the link in the description and enter. I wish everyone luck. It's absolutely free, and we'll be drawing the winner about a week to 10 days before the actual Nintendo Switch 2 releases. Setting that aside, I wanted to note something here, and the thing I wanted to note is we have ended our prior giveaway. We talked about it yesterday. The winner has been announced in our community section. We'll put a link down to that community post if you want to check it out and see the winner. They're actually talking in the comment section there. They have been contacted. Everything's confirmed. They will get their unit shipped out to them right on launch or a couple days after launch. Anyways, let's go ahead and dive in to the news. And the first thing deals with dev kits. Have you ever wondered why we're not getting more and more announcements, like tons of third-party announcements for Switch 2 right now? Well, it could be because, hey, they don't have dev kits. They go over here to the Nintendo Switch 2 Reddit, and it says official source, Nintendo Switch 2 dev kits are not available. So I assume part of the reasoning of many third parties not announcing games for Switch 2 is the following. Look at this. This is on the dev portal backend, developing for Nintendo Switch 2. Thank you for your interest in developing for Nintendo consoles. At this time, we are not accepting requests for access to the development environment for Nintendo Switch 2. We will post another announcement. We are ready to begin accepting requests. Thank you for your patience. And for those who don't know, there's a request form you go through to get dev kits, and it just doesn't exist. Now, we know that doesn't mean there's literally no dev kits out there. We would have 0 games at launch but Nintendo games if there was no dev kits. So we absolutely know that dev kits are a thing, and several companies have them. Cyberpunk 2077, even some indie studios like the fast racing stuff. They are an indie studio, and they have the dev kits. So we have to keep in mind that Nintendo was just very picky and choosy about who got dev kits because they just didn't want things leaking out there. That's really what they're trying to do, is they're trying to control leaks. And I think once we get to June, as has been reported out of GDC, many expect to be able to apply and receive dev kits in June, and that's because the system's already out and there's nothing to hide at that point. And it turns out Nintendo, despite being picky about this stuff, did actually give Ubisoft a dev kit. We know this because Star Wars Outlaws is already announced for Nintendo Switch 2. Now, Ubisoft is famously known for their leaks, but surprisingly, nothing about Switch 2 has leaked out of their company. That doesn't mean there's not other shenanigans going on with Ubisoft, because they have halted something in Japan. Another Assassin's Creed game. This one being Assassin's Creed Odyssey. This is posted by Necro Felipe Lima from Universal Nintendo, and it says, Assassin's Creed Odyssey Cloud Edition sales have halted on Japanese Nintendo eShop. Ubisoft did not provide a reason for removing the game that ran via the cloud on the Nintendo Switch. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of cloud games in general on Switch, and look, if you already bought the cloud version of this game in Japan, obviously you can still play it, you can still download the launcher for it. They're not removing the access to the game, they're just making it so no one else can buy it right now. Why the heck would you remove access to Assassin's Creed Odyssey? The running theory is it could be coming to Nintendo Switch 2. And again, we already know games like Assassin's Creed Shadows are rated by PEGI to be coming to Nintendo Switch 2. So no surprise, I think this is probably also coming to Nintendo Switch 2. Also, this could be one of those things that they're just doing for the heck of it, and it'll be just up later. Maybe there's some cloud maintenance or something else going on, or they update the listing. So there could be many reasons for it, and we'll just have to wait and see if the listing comes back. What we don't have to wait and see on is more features from that 20.0.0 system update. We talked about a lot of the big stuff already in a prior video. You guys should absolutely go watch. But before I show you this, I got to warn you, this person is calling it a broke boy feature that Nintendo added. That's not really what it is, but you'll understand in a moment. I just want to note that that's their terms, not mine. I don't believe in making jokes about poor shaming, but let's go ahead and dive in, because Game Cage Hype Guy says, Nintendo has officially added a broke boy feature to the Switch. It now shows if someone is on Switch 1 or 2, so now you can laugh at your homies. Thank you, Nintendo. Number 900 for Mario Kart World. And, hashtag EA NIS broke or whatever the heck is. Anyways, you can see just a screenshot here showing, hey, this is someone looking at one of their friend profiles. And if you look up top, it says YouTube online. Nintendo Switch. It used to not say Nintendo Switch there. So obviously, if someone's on a Switch 2, it'll say Nintendo Switch 2 next to the game or application they're actively using, or it'll say Nintendo Switch. So again, I don't agree with the terminology used here, but it is interesting, and I do like that Nintendo's doing it. Also, it'll let you know pretty much day one who on your friends list has a Switch 2, because it'll show them actively playing on a Nintendo Switch 2. So I don't think this is a terrible feature, but it is obviously something that, Nintendo did decide to update without telling anyone. You know what they also did without telling anyone? Look, they launched the virtual game card stuff today, which we're not going to get into that whole thing again. We have a whole video already talking about it. But there's features with the virtual game cards that we didn't talk about. One of those features is that you don't need your Switch to share your stuff. Once you have two Switches linked, you can actually share it directly through the website. We'll put a link to this down below. But as you check here, this is my virtual game card library, and we are not on my Nintendo Switch. We're on Nintendo.com. And here you go. Here's all 123 of my virtual things. You'll notice even things in here like YouTube. Apparently, if you click on YouTube, I could load this on another system. You'd see it does say it's currently loaded on my Nintendo Switch, which is the Zelda OLED edition, but I could load it on other systems. Again, I don't have a second Switch attached right now to do that with. You can also go in here and hide it. We'll talk about that. We can also eject it from the system. For those that don't know, you have to eject it in order to put it on a different system. But this is for when you link two Nintendo Switch 2s together, you can eject and load games from different systems. So I do think that's pretty cool, and I think it's neat from here that, in theory, if the game is on someone else's system, I could eject it from there so I could play it and reload it on mine. There's some interesting stuff in here, though. It doesn't tell you which ones are installed and not installed. So let's just go to one that I'm pretty sure is not installed for me, and that's Lego, the Skywalker Saga, because I'm done with that game. But when I click on it, you'll see, it's not loaded on any system. You're also not seeing the system listed here. And if I click on Load System and I hit Load, there's a problem. So it's possible this functionality isn't working quite yet. Obviously, this is the intent of it. I'm supposed to be able to load it on my Switch. My Switch is on. It is connected to the internet. So there's no reason that this shouldn't work other than Nintendo just doesn't have this up yet. So I'm just letting you know this website exists, downloadable content and all that. I'm letting you know this is a way Nintendo is intending us to be able to do it without maybe even having access to your Switch to be able to load and unload games from the two linked Switch systems. So it is something that is there. It doesn't fully function, at least not yet, but that's only a matter of time. Now, you know what's really cool, though, and I didn't think about this, and it actually makes a lot of sense. Nintendo has been obviously pushing digital, right? We know this. And one of the things in pushing digital is, hey, we're going to download and undownload and re-download, whatever, our digital library several times, whether we're switching systems, we don't have enough room in our memory cards, or whatever the case is, right? And right now, the way that it works is you go to the eShop to do it. You can also sometimes archive the games and leave the icon on your Switch, and then you can tap on the icon and re-download. That's another way to do it. There's multiple facets to re-downloading your digital library, but none of it is like super well organized. Well, that has all changed because now you can handle all of it entirely through your virtual game card icon. So what are we talking about here? Redownloading Switch eShop games has now changed with the latest update. So it says, from Nintendo Life, as you'll no doubt be aware now, a new system update has been applied to the Switch that essentially gets a few things in order before the upcoming launch of Switch 2. One that might have flown under your radar is that re-downloading titles directly from the eShop is now no longer possible. Heading into the relevant section via the eShop account information page now merely directs you to the virtual game card app via the home menu. To be honest, this seems like a more elegant solution. And you'll see the screenshot here. And what's interesting is you could see the games that are loaded and not loaded, or downloaded and not downloaded. So all these ones with the teal here, these teal icons, these are currently installed on your Nintendo Switch. All these other ones here that have the black icons are ones that are not installed. So you would obviously click on it and install the game. So this to me is a really nice system. It just organizes everything together. It makes sense. If you have a dedicated button on the home screen to look at your virtual game cards, it would obviously make sense if you could just manage your virtual downloads there as well. So to me, this is nothing but a good feature, a nice add to the Nintendo Switch, and obviously Nintendo Switch 2 when that launches. So I'm happy to see it. Also, I was trying to show off a feature earlier. Doesn't work because the website's kind of borked, but you can do this locally on your system, and that is the hide feature. Now, why would you need a hide feature? Well, let's look over at Go Nintendo. So Switch lets you hide your virtual game cards, and you see this option to hide. Switch got a major firmware update last night and added in a host of features, including the previously announced virtual game cards. So those who don't know, yada yada, that's how it works. All right. But what if you don't want your titles being up for virtual grabs? Don't worry, Nintendo has thought of that. So when you have your two Switches linked and you don't want the other person to grab a game, you can actually hide it so they can't see it. The virtual game card has a built-in feature that'll let you hide select titles from prying eyes. It's completely up to you to decide which games you don't want included in the virtual game card section, and only you will be able to see the full breadth of what's been made available, the person who purchased all the games. There are any number of reasons people might want to hide select titles from the virtual game card system. Perhaps the player on the other end is too young to experience a teen or mature rated games, or maybe you just don't want people being able to see the games you're spending time with. Whatever the reason, now you're free to hide any and all games you want kept secret. We all know the real reason this exists. How many people own those hentai games? You guys know the ones that keep dominating the eShop, and there's like thousands of them releasing every single week. Oh, I know some of you sickos out there. Some of you bastards have those hentai games, and you don't want anyone on your NSO family account knowing that today you bought a $5 hentai game. You needed those virtual boobies, baby. And you know what? More power to you, but also Nintendo now is giving you the power to hide your obsession and addiction with hentai boobies. So we all know that's probably the real reason this exists, because again, I can hide it from my kids. I don't actually own any games like that. You saw my entire virtual library already, but hey, just throwing it out there that if you want to hide it, you can. Man, I'm gonna have to start checking my kids' Switches to see if they bought games without permission and what they have, since they can hide them from me now. Those bastards. Actually, parental app probably won't let that happen. All right, moving on. We actually have a really cool look at the dock for the Nintendo Switch 2, which there's been a little bit of debate about. So we're going to go over to Go Nintendo here. This was obviously put up on the Nintendo Today app. The Pro Controller looks exactly like we think it is. That was posted a few days ago, but this is the new one. We'll go ahead and mute the audio here, and we're just going to play it here and give you guys a nice little look. Look, the dock looks nice. It looks a bit more robust and sturdy than the prior dock. You're going to see the back plate get taken off here where you can plug the cords in. You can see the air vent where the fan supposedly is that sucks in from the bottom there and blows out the top. Where Nintendo of America at least claiming that cools the system, but their patents claiming it only cools the actual the actual dock, which could prevent warping. That could be a huge reason. That was an issue with the docks on Switch. So the cooling could just be to make sure the dock doesn't warp and not actually affect the real Nintendo Switch 2. Cooling, like actually making that cooler, just protecting the dock from it. That being said, we don't really know. What we do know is this is just the closest look we're going to get at a Nintendo Switch 2 dock, at least until it's in our physical hands. And, for many people out there, that's going to be something that you're not going to be able to experience until June 5th or maybe June 4th at like 9 p.m. Pacific if you're doing a midnight pickup. Because, look, the bottom line is not everybody has a Switch 2 dock on hand. Not everyone has a Nintendo Switch 2 dock. I'm just kidding. This is obviously not a real one. This is a model, but hey, I like to mess around because I totally wouldn't sit here and pretend I have an actual Switch 2 or anything. That being said, folks, I want to thank you so much for tuning in. I am Nathaniel Robojats from Nintendo Prime. Hopefully you learned something in this video, and now you're up to date on the latest happenings with Nintendo and Nintendo Switch 2. I do want to start getting into some game coverage here eventually. There hasn't been a ton of actual game news. Like, I've been paying attention, and there's a lot of theories and like little tiny details people are trying to like dig up on these official game websites, but none of it has been that fascinating because all the fascinating parts of it come from speculation. And that reminds me that if you're looking for amazing speculation on Nintendo games, I want to make sure I shout out friend of the channel, Andres Restart. He is someone who is a big theorizing person. He does cover news, but he covers news from a more theoretical perspective where he's coming up with ideas on what this stuff actually means, whether it's the kind of news I cover or it's about the game news. And again, we will cover the game news as it happens, but just right now, there's not a whole lot. But Oh, baby. His channel is flying right now. He's got lots of theories and things he thinks he's figured out about Metroid Prime 4, Donkey Kong Bonanza, and Mario Kart World. And look, his theories sound extremely plausible with plenty of evidence. You guys should go check out his channel. And the reason I'm shouting him out is he is trying to get to 50,000 subscribers by the time Switch 2 comes out. So I figured, you know what? Why not shout him out? Go subscribe to his channel. Come on now. Come on now. If you don't already subscribe to his channel, I really only have one thing to say.
What's wrong with you?
All right, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next video.